It's a podcast.
Oh, look. Hi.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Oh, hi.
Welcome to the Bituation Room podcast.
I like
live
it.
stream.
Sorry. We're doing impressions of our daughter.
Yes. This episode is dedicated to her as Mama and Papa are in the stream. I am Francesca Fiorentini, your host, joined by host of the Bad Hasbara podcast, as well as the Pod Yourself a Gun Wire now Mad Men.
That's right.
Podcast.
TV Rewatch podcast.
TV Rewatch podcast. It is none other than baby daddy / husband, which makes it official, Matt Lieb.
Matt Lieb here. Hi. Welcome. Welcome all of you out there in the bitch zone, ready to get your bitches on.
Put your bitch caps on.
Put your bitch caps on. It's time to yammer.
Now, part of the reason that I wanted Matt on for this episode is that it's been
1 year since you.
It's been 1 year since the genocide, and no one should ever do that bit ever.
It's a less funny bare naked lady song when you change it to that.
It is. So yes, we're going to be talking about a year after October 7th. Just some reflections, a little bit of Doug Emhoff making an appearance. Then we're going to be joined by journalist, analyst, and host of the Iran podcast, Negar Mortazavi. Very excited to have her back on the show. When she was on last, we were talking about the woman life freedom movement in Iran, and now it's just about regional warfare because, chest thumping a-holes who run the world won't allow us to think about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, if you're here, do all the things, click all the buttons, like and share the stream on YouTube. Obviously, subscribe on YouTube as well. What are you doing? I would hope we can hit 100,000 by the end of the year. We're creeping up there. So if you listen as a podcast, pop on over to youtube.com/FrannyFio and give this podcast a subscribe.
It's not that hard.
Very easy.
It's not that hard.
Also, even easier is giving the podcast 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I guess, if that's what the app is called.
That's what it's called.
You can also a little bit more of a heavy lift, but one that is so appreciated and gets you access to a bunch of things like discounts on merchandise, our union-made merch, bituationroom.com. Also, discounts on the American Prospect magazine, which I write for every single edition. Also, access to the bonus episode every Wednesday. We did a deep Mudang dive a couple Wednesdays ago, I think last Wednesday. Also a deep Ta-Nehisi Coates dive. Both of those two figures go very hard.
Very hard.
And patreon.com/bituationroom is where you go. $5 a month, $10 a month gets you a shout out on the fart song portion of the show. So thank you everyone so much in advance for all of your support. Just really, what is this? 2024? It's like four years strong of the podcast, 4.5 years. Started in earnest during the pandemic. And you guys, the Frantifa has really been growing and awesome. So welcome if you were new as well. And we're also going to be talking about just a little preview, not just about October 7th. We're going to be talking about the monster hurricane that is headed for Florida.
Oh, right.
And all of the angles on that, including who they is when Marjorie Taylor Greene asks or says they control the weather.
I know who.
I know
who.
And then Elon Musk has been having quite a little, it just feels like this is his coming out party as being a raging, right winger. And we're going to jump for joy as well as we look at how he jumps in our final segment, which is we're calling Dork MAGA. So stay tuned for that in a little bit.
Nice.
But for now, you guys, you know what to do. It's time to put your bitch caps on. This is, what are you bitching about? As my guest, Matt Lieb, I'm going to ask you, what are you bitching about on this fine Tuesday, October 8th?
I'm bitching about the fact that Alex Jones went bankrupt,
Yes.
and is going to have to sell off InfoWars.
Yes.
And I'm bitching about the fact that despite all that, he is still going to be able to do the thing that he does.
Really? Just under a different name, you
Yeah,
think?
he'll go under a different name. He'll just go on, other podcasts. He'll be able to continue spreading misinformation and being like a total right-wing psychopath who destroys the brains of the elderly. Until he is rotting underground. And it just like, there are times when you celebrate like some justice that you see getting justice through the legal system. And then you realize like the fact that he is bankrupt is not nearly as satisfying as if he actually had to do like a little bit of time.
A little bit of prison time would be tight.
Just a little bit. And here's the thing. I'm not like for prison or the prison industrial complex or the idea that, our government.
Except for Eric Adams.
Well, yeah. I mean, and
Steve Bannon.
Well, here's the thing. My feeling about it is that since we do live in a system in which people do go to prison for all sorts of things, there's just, while we're here, there's certain people who deserve it more than others.
On the road to abolition, let's lock up a few.
Let's take a quick pit stop at, lawfare.
Yeah.
Punitive political imprisonments. That's all I'm saying. Just a little bit as a treat.
It's really incredible to me, though, because you kind of got a taste of what that would look like with the Jan 6ers and those who've been like held for, a few months to a couple years.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest sentences just came down on a woman who was participating in a fake elector scheme in Nevada.
Yeah.
I believe it was Nevada. And that was 9 years, which is by far the biggest I think we've seen.
Yeah.
Especially someone who wasn't like actually attacking the Capitol, but
yeah,
you're always like, oh, maybe they're gonna get hip to like the fact that we have 2 million people in the prison system and this is awful.
Yeah, what if they become abolitionists?
What if they become abolitionists and they haven't? They're just like, not for us.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing is, it's like I would rather someone who is like actively trying to defraud an election spend those years in prison than someone who was at January 6th. Like they should obviously do some time, but I'm more like, let's get the ones who are the schemers, not the true believers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not the people who came out and then, if anything, that's they're just taking Donald Trump's jail time away from him. That's not fair.
Yeah.
They're doing the time he should be doing for inciting a riot.
That's exactly right. And it was a county clerk in Colorado. Thanks for the fact check chat. Tina Peters, but I'm also a little bit like, so long as it's the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement was in part inspired by Donald Trump becoming president.
Sure.
Just this like clear, like,
rapist?
A man who had a clear rapist, a man who had so many, sexual assault allegations.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, well, if we can't get the head honcho, then like Tavis Smiley's going to have to come down. Which might have been, I don't know, a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But, all the other.
A lot of people took some some strays for Donald Trump.
People took some strays, but that's okay because we also got a lot of predators.
But also, like, what are you doing, Charlie Rose? Get out of here.
Except for all the ones who've gotten a retrial.
Except for all the ones who've gotten a retrial and all the major players. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Diddy. Anyway, we will TB Diddy.
TB Diddy.
But it's true. I'm very excited to see who buys the InfoWars estate.
Yeah.
Looking at you, leftist streamer Hassan Piker.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that's even going to happen.
Dude, he would have to move to
Austin?
Austin,
that's fine.
That's dope.
I want to move to what I'm bitching about.
What are you bitching about?
Which is
it me?
It is Matt Lieb. No. So Donald Trump was endorsed by a group called the Safari Club International. Now,
the Safari Club?
Yes, the Safari Club. What you need to know about them?
Can I guess?
Yes, you can guess.
They hunt big game.
Yes, they do.
I knew it.
They hunt big game. I can only assume this is the same organization that Eric and Don Jr. have taken part in, but they organized trophy hunts in 65 countries for people looking to kill animals like elephants, leopards, rhinos, lions, giraffe. And they also market the hunting of like animals that are on the brink of extinction. Like,
Oh.
hey, you can get your white rhino.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
come with us, right?
Yeah.
They also hunt another animal, and that is the hippo,
Oh, really?
but specifically the pygmy hippo.
No, the Mudangs?
The moo dangs, people.
Whoa.
Here is Donald Trump in July meeting with the head of the Safari Club International.
Quite a head on him.
Yes, exactly.
Chubby guy.
And Midas has done its due diligence and sort of done a whole deep dive into Safari Club International and whether or not they hunt the moo dangs. And it turns out,
oh my God, no.
Their record book, which is behind a paywall, allows hunters who pay lots of money to travel to other countries, hunt rare and endangered animals, to post their kills to the group's database as a sort of high score dashboard. SCI states that they will allow endangered animals to be in their record book under certain conditions. And you see hippos and pigs, and you've got common hippopotamus, and these are like rankings of them. And then you've got pygmy hippopotamus.
What's the point of killing? Aren't the pygmies, by design, they're small? Aren't they little boys?
Well, right. And so they even have an explanation on the page, says it's a very wary, alert animal. Yeah, we've seen moo. That is proven extremely difficult to hunt by normal methods. A few local Liberian hunters have been able to track them to their resting places in the thick jungle. In other words, killing them in their home, like the IDF. But visiting sportsmen should not count on doing the same. Most are taken in pit traps, dug in their pathways by local meat hunters. It's also a difficult matter. And only a handful of expert trappers have had much success. In other words, if you're like, a rich white guy with a small penis, you hire someone to dig a fucking hole.
So you're not even doing the hunting yourself.
You're probably not digging the ditch that captures this boy.
Oh.
Are you fucking
Are you kidding me?
Kidding me?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Are you fucking kidding me? If there was a reason to vote this November, it's that Moo Dang's life is at stake.
They're killing his family.
And the Safari Club International, the Humane Society, did a whole deep dive because you're not supposed to like hunt moo dangs. The moo dangs are not, I believe, under threat of extinction, although they're very few. But you are not supposed to hunt animals that are going extinct.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not supposed to hunt animals that are that adorable.
Yeah, that's a really cute boy.
So
I love the idea. You're like, listen, if you need a reason to vote against Donald Trump, don't moo, vote. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Moo dang to the polls. It's not Kamala Harris.
Moo dang to the polls.
I mean, that doesn't mean anything, actually.
I
But
like it, though.
as we were looking into this, though, Paige found, and Midas Touch did another report, because that's how fixated they are, as they should be, on this, that apparently J.D. Vance fished with the trophy hunting group that ranks among the hippo kills. So in other words, I mean, it doesn't matter. This is like whatever.
He fished with them.
He fished with them.
All
But
right,
he probably killed a cute fish.
Well, all fish are not cute. What? Look at that. Was that Mudang biting someone?
Yeah, they're vicious.
They're vicious little
So-
bitches. I kind of get wanting to kill them, but you shouldn't. No, what I mean is like when they start biting you.
You could just push it.
Yeah. I
You
know.
don't have to kill it.
I wouldn't
You
kill it.
shake it off.
I would never kill. I want to point out I would never kill a Mudang or any of his brothers. Her brothers. I'm sorry. Mudang is a girl.
Yeah, Mudang's a girl.
Okay. Sorry for misgendering Mudang, but yeah, it is like when you see the videos of Mudang attacking, just kick it. It's just weird to like. I want to hunt, big game, and it's like, well, this is small.
This is small game.
It's like, well, what I mean is, I want to kill one of God's creatures, so there's none of them left. And it's like, okay, go to jail. Go to jail.
Once
you
again,
don't deserve to live in society.
Matt advocating to go to
It's
jail.
hard. It's hard because, on the one hand, I'm like, I have these principles. On the other hand, I'm just like, well, there's got to be some jails.
Yeah.
And they got to hold the people who express an interest in killing Mudang.
I think the big game stuff is something we can all get behind.
Right?
I think it is.
The only people who
like,
are...
what fucking year is it? It's 2024. Calm down. There's like 3 leopards left.
All of these people are just
there's
trying
literally
to
like
get
17 tigers in the wild. Like, no joke. There's like very few
the
tigers.
people who are advocating for this, who are doing this, they just want to be invited to the super secret real big game hunt, which is when they hunt people. And we know it's out there.
That's true.
We know it exists. You know, there's someone who's got like a people hunting ranch, and all of these psychopaths want to be involved with it.
Well, that's why, like, I mean, that was
I should buy InfoWars.
You should.
What
buy
I just
InfoWars.
said, I just made up off the top of my head.
Well,
they're hunting people. People.
I mean,
are being hunted. They're putting.
There's a reason people like Squid Game, because it was like, yeah, we could definitely imagine billionaires doing that because they're so bored and so rich.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
but
Selena Gomez definitely has tasted human flesh now that she's
Selena,
a billionaire.
Yeah,
now that she's a billionaire, she's like, I mean, I can kill someone.
It's kind of, yeah, but it's not fair because she's so. When you get that rich, it's like it's in everything.
Yeah,
like human meat is just in everything. Everywhere you go, they're trying to give you human meat. And she probably didn't even know.
It's the microplastics.
Yeah, it's like the microplastics of rich people. Just like, oh no, there's
a little bit of human meat.
Meat in my bloodstream, and now my taint is small.
What?
You didn't read about the microplastics making people's taints smaller?
No, that is so funny.
It was a TikTok theory.
You know what will make your taint very large indeed?
Go on.
A little bit of CBD, people. Sunset Lake CBD is having its last day. If you're listening to my voice in the future, depending on when we publish this episode, use the coupon code for Antifa for 20% off your order. But if you're shopping today and you want a good excuse to be like, I wonder what Sunset Lake CBD, craft CBD, regeneratively farmed CBD in Vermont, like awesome company that donates to great causes. I wonder what their edibles are all about. Today, you need to buy some. Use the coupon code October24 for 35% off all the edibles. So you got the Relax gummies, the Focus gummies, the Good Night gummies with CBD, CBN, and melatonin. So make sure to check that out. And again, if you're listening in the future, you can always use coupon code FRANTIFA for 20% off. Again, big fan of the tinctures, but also the Focus gummies. I've said this before. They put me in, especially before a Piers Morgan appearance. I'm relaxed. I am focused.
Yeah.
And it usually like nip a headache in the bud when you're just like, I had a rough night's sleep. Like they help. Or you're like, I feel a headache coming on. I'm telling you, the Focus gummies are crushing it. They've got cordyceps and lion's mane. Mwah.
Yeah, cordyceps is I think a fungi.
It's a fungi
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's also, I think it is the name of the thing in Last of Us, but they are not related, not connected.
I mean, that would be a cool part of it, though.
I would love it if, the clickers. The
clickers are just chlamydia. Do you realize like their face just looks like chlamydia?
If the clickers all took the Focus gummies and they're like, oh, hell yeah. All the clickers are doing their taxes and stuff, like getting ready to appear on Piers Morgan. Well, what do you think about that, clicker?
Do you condemn Hamas?
That would be fun.
That honestly would be an upgrade from a lot of the guests that he has on.
It's essentially that. I've watched the show. It's you versus 5 clickers, all just.
All right, guys. There's a lot to get into this week. Many things happened. Just 2 for this show. This is the week where. Okay, so this was the week where we are still reeling from the impact of Hurricane Helene. 200 at least people died as a result of it. Wow. There's still rescue efforts underway. There's still difficulty in getting any aid to the area, again, throughout North Carolina and Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, all that, right? And now we have Hurricane Milton, which is bigger, better. It is terrifying. It's just fucking terrifying. That's what is happening right now. Here is an aerial shot that you need to just see, taken from space. Whoa. Of the hurricane as it is gaining steam and speed in the Gulf of Mexico. It was a Category 5 as of this morning. This is Tuesday. It was downgraded to 4, but it seems like it could actually go back to a 5. Winds are about 150 miles per hour with wind gusts at 180, I believe the last was.
Where's is Helene just gone?
Helene is gone.
Oh,
It dumped a lot of rain. Bye.
bye, Helene.
Smell you later. And Milton has come in her wake. And it is truly terrifying. Here is just a sort of satellite, not satellite imagery, but like a heat map-ish, whatever. The purple being the most severe rain and storm and wind. And you see Florida there just right in its path. The evacuation area in Florida is massive. Roads are completely clogged right now. And you see images. And the weirdest thing about it is like everyone's just using one side of the highway.
Right,
like we're still obeying fucking traffic rules when millions of people have been ordered to evacuate.
Yeah, that is kind of strange, especially in Florida where they're just like, ain't no rules can stop me from.
That's some woke shit driving the right way.
With my bare hands. They're always eating alligators.
They are. And okay, so then here, this is on Twitter. Brian McNulty says, right before landfall, Milton's inner core will pass over some of the warmest water of its entire journey. 30 to 31 degrees Celsius or 80 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, 3.5 to 5.5 degrees warmer than average for this time of year. And so what happens with hurricanes is that they gain speed and strength when they're passing over warmer water.
Oh, no.
Which is...
No, that's bad. No, that's what? Why? I'm saying it's bad.
I don't believe you.
I meant that. Oh no,
bad.
No, I went. Oh no, because that's like
Very fucking
what's about
scary.
to happen.
What is about to happen? It's supposed to make landfall on Wednesday. It is terrifying. It is really terrifying. And
were you gonna go to Orlando?
I was supposed to maybe go to Orlando, which already I'm like, I don't have any appetite to go to Florida. Like
even before the hurricane, you were just like, ugh, I have to go all the way to Florida.
Yes.
But now I'm like, definitely go.
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine.
Me?
Yeah.
You want me to go to Florida right now?
It's empty. You could have Universal Studios all to yourself.
That's what you would do.
No lines.
Just me and the Minions ride.
Yes, like, you want the Minions ride, just like soaking it up, like figuratively and literally.
Jesus Christ. In fact, I think Disneyland is still open today. But anyway, we are...
Shout out to Disneyland for still being open.
Yeah. And not to mention a lot of... there are reports that businesses are requiring their workers to go to work tomorrow. Which
crazy.
Is fucking insane.
Wow.
But the real thing is...
They're like, if we're not closing for a pandemic, you think we're going to close for a hurricane? Both of these things were invented by the Jews.
Exactly. Well, that is effectively what people like Marjorie Greene have been saying, but we will go into it in a little bit. Let's get into okay, so the politics of this. One of the things to know is that Ron DeSantis signed a bill last year that deleted the words climate change from any state laws.
Cool.
He particularly has been focusing on just like maximum energy output, that we need to stop focusing on like mitigation and just start focusing on how quickly we can burn as much oil as possible.
Sick.
He has had some climate preparedness in like the state budgets and has been okay with that. But he also, when the Inflation Reduction Act was signed, he rejected $350 million in climate funding before Hurricane Idalia. This was last year. So in other words, he's okay with like building bigger, walls. Republicans love to build walls.
Sure.
But if there's any funding, $350 of federal money to say, here's rebates when you retrofit your homes or you switch to, like you switch from a gas stove, to whatever it is, like a convection oven. A convection oven.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I get you.
The heat pump versus the air conditioning. All of the ways you can save energy, all the ways you can retrofit your home and emit less carbon.
Yeah, he's just like, no.
He rejected that.
It's like, that's a wokeness and that is, yeah, he just believes that that's all a woke plot.
Absolutely. I mean, and then he has said time and time again that the hurricanes are just a fact of life in our sunshine state. That's just how we live. We live like this. And then we just rebuild on the sand because our insurance companies give us the money for it. Oops. Our insurance companies are no longer actually insuring our homes.
That's crazy.
Yes, because they know that Florida will be underwater very soon. So it's just terrifying. I want to go to what is happening in terms of like FEMA, because right now, Mike Johnson is refusing to call back Congress from recess. They're on a vacation.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. I mean, some of them are being called back if they're in Florida already.
Yeah.
Just nature's calling them back.
Mm-hmm.
So he won't call them back in order to approve more funding for FEMA, and FEMA is desperate for it. Biden called on congressional leaders to approve more money for disaster recovery on Friday. While FEMA's disaster relief fund has the resources it requires right now to meet immediate needs, the fund does face a shortfall at the end of the year. He wrote, without additional funding, FEMA would be required to forego longer-term recovery activities in favor of meeting urgent needs. Congress should provide FEMA additional resources to avoid the unnecessary trade-off, give the communities we serve the certainty of knowing that help will be ongoing both for the short and long term, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Mayorkas has been sounding the alarm. On Wednesday, he said that FEMA was facing a dire cash crunch, saying that while the agency can meet immediate needs, again, as Biden echoed, doesn't have the funding to make it through hurricane season. Just before Helene hit, Congress replenished the agency's disaster relief fund, $20 million as a stopgap measure through December 20th. The bill also gave FEMA flexibility to draw on money as needed, but it left out billions that had been requested in supplemental disaster funding. So the New York Times is much more reporting on how stretched FEMA is.
Right.
Just 9% of FEMA's personnel, or 1,217 people, were available to respond to Hurricane Milton or other disasters, according to the agency's daily briefing. This is just like the levels of FEMA staffing are so low, and in part because people are burnt out. A report last year by the Government Accountability Office found that 35% of FEMA's positions were unfilled because of rising disaster activity during the year, which increased burnout and employee attrition.
Wow.
So
just so I'm clear,
we live in a first world country.
Yeah. Just so I'm clear, in order for more funding to be approved, it has to go through Congress, right?
It's got to go through
and
Congress.
Also, does the governor of the state have to approve FEMA coming in?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But Ron DeSantis has said that all the funding he's asked for, in additional funding, federal funding, that Biden has control over, has been granted.
Right. Okay.
So you can imagine they're taking a pretty big slice of the pie that was that $20 billion stopgap funding, but that they need more to make it through this entire, hurricane season, which Donald Trump has said, it's amazing we're having hurricanes now, right in the middle of hurricane season.
Wait, he's just like, coincidence? No.
Must be the Jews.
Like, it's just, well, he starts off with it like coincidence, and then he says, well, it is during hurricane season.
So the other thing to know is that obviously the right is wasting no time in spinning this. We talked about it last week, but here's Donald Trump campaigning, and this is the kind of thing that he is saying about FEMA. So the point that FEMA now has a misinformation website that it's set up about everything that's going on.
A luxury hotel, and illegal migrants come in and they're going up and occupying the hotel. That's what's happening. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. They're trying to get them on the voters' roll. We cannot let that happen.
I want to live the way Donald Trump thinks illegal immigrants live.
Yeah.
Like
5-star hotels.
The way that he describes undocumented people as living, it just sounds dope. And not only that, but it actually sounds like what any normal country, in the first world would do, which is like help people out who need help. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he's generally describing undocumented immigrants as living under socialism. And I'm just like, yeah, that's actually, I'm okay with that if it's for everybody.
But this is amazing, right? Because he's basically like, all the hotels are booked up in outside of the evacuation zone in Florida. People can't escape. People will absolutely die. And Donald Trump wastes no time in not just accusing the government of denying funding to these states because they're red states. But now is saying that they are, they're not funding FEMA, when in fact it was Republicans who weren't funding FEMA. And the Republicans, mind you, wanted to fucking shut down the government.
Right.
They wanted to shut down the government, and Mike Johnson was like, that's a bridge too far for me.
And everyone called him a cuck. All right. Wasn't everyone mad? Or at least the right MAGA flank was mad at him for not shutting down. They're always mad for
not shutting down the government over the idea, again, that undocumented people are voting, which they are not. Now, Donald Trump, everything he says has a shred of this is based in some sort of reality,
right?
That then you are twisting to again score political points at a time when people are dying. So the shred of reality is that FEMA does administer shelter and service programs that allocate funds to migrant support groups, nonprofits, and state and local governments. That money, though, comes from an entirely different, separate pot funded by Congress for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, not FEMA's disaster relief fund.
Right.
So this is two different buckets of money. In fact, the only time that they became one bucket was under Donald Trump. According to Salon, the money being pulled from FEMA to cover the cost of housing and detaining immigrants occurred in 2019 when Trump was president and his administration yanked a total of $271 million from the Department of Homeland Security, including $155 million from FEMA's disaster relief fund to address a surge in asylum applications, which is fine.
Yes.
But if you're going to accuse the other side of doing this, we gonna have to point that out.
Right. And also, like in general, this is my issue with everything that he says is to not get on the defensive about whether or not, like, all I can think is like everything that he's accusing the Democrats of doing for illegal immigrants. The sad part about it is that it's like mostly is not true. I wish it was true. Like I'm the loony left psychopath who's like, we should be treating anyone who does not have the means to escape or get to get out of a natural disaster zone. We should be giving them the means. We should give them a place to stay. We should be trying to make them whole as best as possible. It's just and
the most vulnerable, which include undocumented people, unhoused people, people who can't afford a flight out, can't afford a train ticket out, whatever it is.
I just hate
are the ones who are going to die. And so it's like, shouldn't Trump be happy about all this?
Well,
shouldn't they be heralding the hurricane instead of blaming it on they?
Yes.
The theys, Matt?
Them.
Marjorie Green, I talked a little bit about this on Friday, tweeted, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it cannot be done. Followed up by tweets like this.
Oh, damn. She is just discovering Wojak. Like all of these like old school meme like templates. Good for her. Look at that wall of text.
So this is a tweet that just has, I guess his name is Wojak. I don't know, the like cartoon guy with the glasses saying they can't control the weather. And then a Chad pointing out all the times. And this text, by the way, is illegible. You're not supposed to be able to read it. And it is followed up by the world's longest community notes possible, which is so amazing.
It's crazy that Elon Musk hasn't gotten rid of those yet.
Right? They're straight fact checking him to his face. So she again points to the lasers. Everyone's talking.
Are we back with the Jewish space lasers?
They're not necessarily Jewish, but we're talking about the lasers.
Yes.
We're back to cloud seeding, which I believe is what the government of China did. And I was saying this on Friday to try to create rain so they could get rid of like some of the smog during the Beijing Olympics.
Right.
So everyone's going to do a deep dive again, as if human activity could affect the weather. That is everything except for massive amounts of drilling and pouring incredible amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere and other heat trapping gases.
Yes. Like we also believe that humans control the weather, just not in the way you think. The problem is just so I'm clear, she's implying that with the whoever they are putting a hit out on Florida before an election. Is that essentially like you're trying to stop Donald Trump from winning Florida, so you created a hurricane during hurricane season?
Yes, I mean, look at this. This couldn't be God. What's bigger than God? Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer's way bigger than God.
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, Nancy P is God.
Look at that. All they had to do. I mean, first of all, it's been a long con. Nancy Pelosi has been just extracting natural gas and oil and gas and drilling personally for decades and decades and decades, leading all up to the 2024 election.
So that she could unleash Milton.
Upon Florida.
Yeah.
So I'm just imagining how big DeSantis's boots are going to be this time around. How tall them shits are going to go up.
They're going to go up high.
They're going to go all the way up to his neck. And we will see. There are reports that he wasn't taking calls from Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. That I think has been unsubstantiated. But I don't even want to say praying, but I am thinking of all the people who are going to be hit by this storm.
It's going to be massive and it's going to be terrible. Yes. And I think there's also like a little bit of the liberal tendency to be like, well, it's a red state. Get that shit out of your mind, because the people who are going to be affected by it are not not the middle class white boat dads who think that Trump is awesome and that all libs should die. It is like it's normal people, regular people not of means, people who and even if they do have kooky political beliefs, it's like they're human beings, and we should not we don't want to get in the habit of letting our government off the hook for something that they should be doing, even if you're like, well, they're a red state. Like, stop that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was on local Florida news, there was I just want to play this quickly. A meteorologist basically broke down into tears describing the hurricane.
Incredible hurricane. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
Dude, if I only knew what a millibar was,
I don't know, dude.
I'd be so fucking
I feel like
scared
that's
too.
Like half a Zanny bar. I'm sorry.
That is gutting. Like, to get like a meteorologist so terrified and so afraid, and then there's more, right? Because he didn't just break into tears. He immediately made the connection. And look, we should not politicize the weather at all when it comes to who you save, who you help, thinking that it's a red or blue state, or that, a fucking hurricane gives a shit, or that the Jews or the Democrats are creating hurricanes. But it is absolutely political to continue an extractive capitalist model and pretend like it is not, on the other side of it, killing us and will kill us all. Here he is, connects it very clearly.
Maximum sustained winds are 160 miles per hour, and it is just gaining strength in the Gulf of Mexico, where you can imagine the winds. I mean, the seas are just so incredibly hot, record hot, as you might imagine. You know what's driving that. I don't need to tell you. Global warming, climate change, leading to this and becoming an increasing threat.
There you have it. I think that piece was really important. It's not just that he's crying. He's like, no, this is what's doing it.
Yeah. And he's also going, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, not naming what this is, and that this is unsustainable. I mean, it's like every year we have another first time in 1,000-year disaster, or like 100-year storm, 200-year storm. It's like stopped being 100 or 200 years between these things. Yes. And we just, we survive it, or at least those who do survive it, and then we move on. And we pretend it didn't happen, and we, it's just, it's insane.
Well, speaking of pretending it didn't happen, well, let's talk about everything that's happened since October 7th. We're at the 1-year anniversary of
our daughter's first birthday.
Of our daughter's first birthday, meaning she is 2. She was born on October 7th.
That's right. Coincidence?
I think not. This will always be a happy day for me. Yep. And it is very upsetting that it has now been utilized as a pretext for genocide. I'm not saying you should not remember or commemorate those who were killed on October 7th, but October 7th happens in a very, very, very long history.
Yeah.
Of,
and specific context.
And a specific context that October 7th never needed to happen. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have ever happened on every front, on an intelligence front, just on some IDF completely messed up front.
Yeah.
But also on a don't keep 2 million people in an open air prison front and occupy other, instate an apartheid state on another people.
That's right. Yeah.
To say nothing of the peace process being utterly fucked. But let's just a little bit of a taking stock. There's a lot. The death toll on October 7th keeps on being amended.
Yeah.
So
we still don't know.
We still don't really know, but it seems like that 1,100 were killed. Maybe half were military.
Yeah, or a third. I've heard as low as a third.
As low as, okay. 250 hostages were taken, and again, 100 remain. Only 70 are thought to be alive. 105, a whopping 105 hostages were released in November.
Yeah.
Because of diplomacy.
That's right. Because there was a ceasefire and there was diplomacy.
And there was diplomacy.
That's right.
In the meantime, though, obviously 41,600 Palestinians have been killed, which is
that we know of.
That is a modest number. That the Gaza Health Ministry, which has been under attack and basically has lost the ability to account for all the dead. But when they do have verified identities of bodies.
Yeah.
It's on and on and on. 60% of buildings in Gaza destroyed. And now 2,000 killed in Lebanon as Israel shows no sign of slowing down.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, are the hostages there? Because it seems like we have stopped talking about the hostages, at least in the regular, Hasbara channels. They've kind of slowed down to bring them home ever since they started attacking Lebanon. And then it just kind of got, you feel for the families of the captives, because you're just like, at this point, they're just being completely ignored by their own government. And they have been for a long time.
Yes.
Except for the ones who are allowing, the government to use them as a figurehead for why we need to continue doing this genocide.
Well, and the fact that there's been an unwillingness to actually do a ceasefire has cost the hostages lives, not just indirectly based on whether they were killed through Israeli strikes or whether they were killed from hunger or disease or whatever's hurt them. But I'm reminded of the parents of Hirsch Goldberg, an American who was at the Nova Festival, was taken hostage. He was alive at the DNC when they spoke.
Right. Well,
he was then found dead.
Right.
About a couple weeks later.
Yes.
And it is because the directives from Hamas changed after there was clear indication that Israel would go in shooting and not stop. And kill as many people as possible. And it was a massive risk to even have a hostage. Do you know what I'm saying? So that his life could have been negotiated for, his life could have been spared, but no, he was killed.
And you see the
by Hamas at the, because the IDF was closing in on where they were being held captive.
Well, that's the explicit threat in having hostages, is that their life is at risk. That's why you rescue or negotiate.
You get in Kevin Spacey, the negotiator.
That's right. You had in Kevin Spacey, but it's just it's October 7th, a year since then, and I saw some people who I know who have been for a year have had their brains completely fried by Israeli propaganda. And, they've said stuff, something along the lines of how come you people can't even spend one day trying to empathize with the parents of the hostages and stuff. And while there's some truth in that, people may, especially online, not show any empathy at all. I can't help but understand where people are coming from and not even wanting to address the issue of people who are taken captive. And the reason is because they are have been used as the symbol for why a genocide needs to happen.
Yes.
And people just feel so disgusted by that they just don't take any conversation about captives in good faith, and nor should they. Because why would you take it in good faith when you know that the government that is claiming that they want these kids back, they want these adults, these hostages, all, you know, the Israeli captives back, is not doing anything to get them back other than the destruction that they were going to rain down upon Gaza anyways. And so just this idea that you would allow the conversation to be switched to that when you know it's in bad faith, when you know it's a lie, when you know they don't want to bring them home.
And the other thing that I think for me that happens is knowing that if you do the math, and I've done the math multiple times, and I believe right now it is every 10 days on October 7th, meaning 1,100 people are killed.
Right.
Even 1,200, like let's say you can add the hostages. Let's give it every 2 weeks in Gaza on October 7th has happened. And so separating out these, 1,100 people or these 100 hostages, whatever it is, out of a number like 41,600 feels inherently like I am prizing one life over another.
Exactly.
Just on its face, that's how it feels.
Yes.
That being said, obviously, like, I do think we have to be taken you have to be taken seriously and be like, we need bloodshed on all sides. October 7th is horrific. It's awful what happened, other than the birth of our child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The year before. The other thing that is really important to know now is that CNN is reporting this, come on. Ceasefire deals in Gaza are dead in the water. They died end of September, done.
Mm-hmm.
Ceasefire deal in Lebanon, done.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps dying with the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah.
Mm-hmm.
So we are hearing every day that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are working around the clock to get a ceasefire done. No, they're not. And they're finally now admitting it.
Yes.
Slowly to media outlets.
Yes. And still not fully admitting it. And this is, I think, one of the most annoying things about it is the fact that they continue this front. They continue the lie of the fact that, like, well, would we prefer, for them to, have a ceasefire and to not be aggressive? Sure. But, it's hard. Like, they do the thing where they pretend they're not in control.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's not that Israel's a sovereign state. They're going to do what they got to do. But the idea that we exert no control over the arms we give them personally, we do it. We give aid. The idea that we can't control that, the idea that we, we're doing our best. What that does is it passes on the blame to just Netanyahu, which, I'm sorry, is like we're doing this dangerous thing that, the Democrats are really good at doing, which is taking an issue and trying to like liberalize it, like make it kind of like trying to pretend as if they have feelings, when the truth is that they are acting within the interests of the U.S. government and the interests of U.S. empire. And so what happens is people start going, damn, it looks like the Jews do control everything. Spreads anti-Semitism everywhere. All of a sudden it stops being about a actual analysis of empire. It stops being about an analysis of the American imperialist hegemon, and it starts being this, who's really in control here?
Well, especially when you have, and this is when you have a grand collapsing of the Jewish people, the world over,
which they take
Israel.
Part in.
So let's play Doug Emhoff,
oh man,
Second Gentleman, on October 7th.
As we gather here today on what was the deadliest day for Jewish people since the Holocaust, I am still filled with pain and despair. This is an incredibly challenging day for Jews around the world, myself included. October 7th hit us hard as a community. We are still hurting, and today feels just as raw as it did 1 year ago. What happened on October 7th is seared into our souls. I can't stop thinking about the hostages and their families and all of those we've lost over the past year.
So there you have it again.
Thanks, Jack me off. What's his name?
Doug Emhoff.
Oh, right.
But
I just everything there is like exactly what I despise about liberal Zionism. Everything there. I mean, and that's not even to say that's like a particularly liberal Zionism. That is what I hate about liberals doing Zionism.
Yes.
Like this weepy, kind of proclamation of despair and the tragedy of the hostages. When, if you want the hostages back, if you want the way that they did in November, you can do this. You can negotiate. You can do a ceasefire. You can do diplomacy. And this idea that, we wish we had them back. He knows he's full of it.
And if it's followed up by Kamala sort of, and this is similar to what she said to 60 Minutes, we're not going to play it, but she was asked directly by Bill Whitaker on 60 Minutes, look, it seems like Netanyahu's not listening to you.
Yeah. Yes, which is, I think is a big sign when like a journalist asks a real question on a major news network, especially a network.
Yes.
I was like, that's a great question.
Yeah. I hear everything you're saying. It's not working.
Right.
So what's the plan now?
Right.
What's been the plan? He hasn't been listening in for a very long time. And he said, and she is basically claiming that, no, there's stuff you haven't seen.
Yeah.
She said the work we've done has resulted in a number of movements by Israel that were the result of our advocacy for what needs to happen in that region.
Gotta love her word salad.
Gotta love the word salad. I'm sparing you the clip. Also, it's copyright. But Bill asks, do we have a close ally in Netanyahu? She pauses and says, the question is, do we have a close alliance between the Israeli people and the American people? And the answer to that is yes.
That wasn't actually the question. You should answer the real question. And second of all, that's also not true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This idea, do we have a close alliance between the Israeli people and the American people? What are you talking about?
She's talking about Jews. She's talking about the Jewish people.
Yes.
That's what she's saying.
Be honest. Just say out loud that, there are Jews in this country who are also Israelis and or who support Israel. And, just like this idea that like you're going to like tiptoe around it, it makes it sound more nefarious than it is. It is not unnatural at all for Jewish people in America, especially raised in Zionism, to believe that Israel is a close ally. It is also not, an aberration that there are major funders of Israel and AIPAC funders who are Americans. That's the thing. They're not foreigners.
Well, I think
they are Americans.
That's who this is for. I mean, Doug,
right? But Kamala, just you have to
all
say
this
that
feels like it's for the lobby.
You have to say that though.
Scared as shit of the lobby.
But if you do not say that, what ends up happening is people go like, "Oh, I see. All the Jews support it. Therefore, we all have to." And then people start doing dual loyalty. Are they really loyal to America and stuff? And it's just like I just sit here. Caught, in this endless anti-Semitism trap where I'm just like, everything you say is anti-Semitism is actually, a lie. You just say things are anti-Semitic because they're anti-Israel. Meanwhile, you are contributing to anti-Semitism, to actual anti-Semitism throughout the United States.
And they're hell bent on collapsing the definitions of anti-Semitism to be pro-Palestine,
which is
or anti-Zionist. And it's like that is, and it is thanks to people like yourself, people on the streets, people who've been, out there protesting, who, progressive leftist Jews, anti-Zionist Jews who are saying, no, this is very dangerous to traffic in collapsing these two things. This will hurt everyone in the long run. And also, by the way, let's stop genocide.
Yes. And it's crazy.
And by the way, the numbers are $17.9 billion in funding from the United States to Israel. I've seen also $23 billion of taxpayer money in a single year.
It's crazy. You just after a while, the numbers, when you're someone who makes they're living off of doing podcast. Those numbers are so insane that you're just like, I don't know, man. They're doing $1 bajillion dollars, and it's just insane. It's crazy.
Anyway, if the State Department could become a patron, patreon.com/Situation Room, I could get a bunch of tankies calling me
yeah, dude.
shill.
Yeah.
I'll take the money.
Hey, shill away.
Let me bring in my guest, our guest, an award-winning journalist, commentator, editor, and host of the Iran podcast that everyone should check out, especially now. Also a senior fellow at the Center for International Policy. Please welcome Negar Mortazavi. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me. Great to be back. And I totally share your feelings about numbers on podcasts. I'm also always constantly looking for funding for our little Iran podcast, and it's not even the same currency when you think about the numbers.
Yeah, no, they have so many commas and zeros that you're just like, oh man, at some point I hope to have another comma in there.
Well, you know what's interesting about like funding for like arts and like is we don't have it in this country.
Yeah.
But like one day, you know, not to whatever be weird about it, but like, you know, I respected a lot of Hugo Chavez's, you know, policies in Venezuela. And one of them was funding for the arts, even funding for people who like hated his guts.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was like all these reports of him like, yeah, this like one radio station is anti-Chavista and they get money from the government. And it was like, that's actual democracy. That's how I hope things should work one day, is like we get a little bit of seed money so we can crap all over the government.
Yeah.
Well, let me just add one quick point, is that this is also not just a war on the battlefield. This is very much a war of narratives.
Yes.
The space, the online space, as you all know it, and some of us who are on the receiving end of a lot of hate and misinformation, is just filled with a lot of disinformation, misinformation, government propaganda by all sides. I'm not just pointing to one side. And also a try or an attempt to have absolute control on the narrative, and also to go after anyone who challenges that narrative. And so, you know, it's not just money spent on the battlefield. Now, I don't know where the numbers are and how it breaks down, but it's also very expensive to have such an immense war to win over the narrative and fill the space with just so much misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think I've been really struck by, and well, let's talk about Iran. As we pivot to Iran, it's been really striking to see how seamless a Democratic presidency and administration has also pivoted to Iran, where even 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you were not hearing, as you mentioned, Kamala Harris saying our biggest adversary is Iran, or Tim Walz on the debate stage saying, I'm worried about Iran and its proxies, although he said Israel, which was very funny. He misspoke. But suddenly what Israel has been trying to do since long before a year ago, for years now, is focus the U.S. military machinery against the country of Iran, and how easy that has become now, that what we all imagined would happen, which is a missile exchange between obviously Hezbollah and the IDF, but now Iran and Israel, because of Israel's provocations, has meant that, you know, they're just picking up the talking point. And that is really disturbing. I don't know, Negar, if you want to just like, you know, there's so many places to start, but just in that language, you know, the thing that, you know, the John McCain's and the Cheneys and the, you know,
all the neocons,
the dreams of the neocons of focusing on Iran have finally come to pass.
Yes, so I'm glad you're talking about this. I'm actually very worried, and I just tweeted this little clip, a short clip from part of the 60 Minutes interview with the Vice President Kamala Harris, the candidate, that was actually not aired as part of the big interview, but the clip was posted later, where she's asked about the country's, America's greatest adversary, and she goes on and says Iran, and then follows by saying they have American blood on their hands. And I saw a few colleagues tweeting. I also tweeted basically that this is how endless war started. This is how every endless war started, with rhetoric, Iraq, Afghanistan, go back as far as you want. And it's just, you know, also confusing, maybe contradictory, that this is an administration that is supposedly against endless wars. It's an administration that ended one endless war, completed, however messy that war in Afghanistan, to then oversee in the same term, not even the next term, to then oversee or help or pave the way or get pulled in, however you want to frame it, into another big war with Iran, which is going to be much bigger, more devastating than the war in Iraq. So I don't know if they even realize it. I don't think anybody in Washington is really going out there publicly promoting and wanting a big war, the next big war with Iran. But you can also stumble onto a war. You can sleepwalk into it. And I think that's kind of the situation that we're seeing. And when I do interviews, they ask me about the next, is this turning into the big Middle East war? Is this war expanding? Is it escalating? We're already there. This is the big Middle East war in front of us. It has only been expanding in the past year, and it has only escalated into multiple fronts. And it's just going more and more. And, the only way to stop it, I would say, is to prioritize a very serious diplomacy. Now, this takes different shapes and forms on different fronts, but it's just something that I haven't seen the administration do. They just talk about it. They promised it on the campaign trail to prioritize diplomacy, be an administration on human rights, and all of that. I haven't really seen much action the past year.
I mean, I have the very smallest sliver of hope that a lot of this is bullshit to get elected by people who she who don't love her. Like she's not trying to get our vote. She's not trying to get youth votes, because this is the biggest issue. Palestine, Gaza, everything that's come of it is the biggest issue. But Kamala Harris has it in her. She negotiated the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War, with many different countries getting Americans out of Russia and vice versa, right? They can do this. This is not, which is good. I applaud that move. So you can absolutely do the same thing here. But again, like you said, I think they are definitely sleepwalking into another war. It's been a little bit of time now. It's been over a week since Iran fired, I think, almost 200 missiles at Israel. They were largely shot down by not Israel, but the United States. Again, none of which would have happened if all of this escalatory stuff hadn't happened. The killing of Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas leader in Tehran, the bombing back in April of the embassy in Damascus, the Iranian embassy in Damascus. It's just been on and on and on and on. And to say nothing of the fact that the people are targeted are all people who talked about ceasefire. Haniyeh was on the precipice of agreeing to a ceasefire.
He was a negotiator. He was a negotiator then. Yes.
Kill him. He's got to go.
Yeah.
He's got to go. So they're doing everything in their power to move away from that diplomacy. But I guess the question isn't, as you just said, the war is already here, but it's sort of like Israel's move. What are you hearing from the ground in Iran? And what is I imagine the appetite for something like this from the Iranian people is next to nothing, but what do you know?
Well, certainly not the Iranian people. I would argue most people in the region, especially those who are on the crossroads of the war, if you talk to them, don't want the war to expand to their own neighborhood, and definitely not Iranians. I would also say we here in the US, the American society also has no appetite for another war. If they understand what's happening to them, that's the other thing,
Right.
How you frame and message and present a war that you're stumbling into, as we continue to hear this term about limited strikes and just going in temporarily and things like that. But I think in Iran, it depends on which faction we look at, because it's obviously not a monolith, just like here it isn't, even in Israel, Lebanon, across the region. But in Iran, what happened is there's been a change of administration. So the previous president, who was a hardliner conservative, died in a helicopter crash. And now our new president, a reformist, was just elected and took power. And by the way, Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran as he was there attending the inauguration of the president on his first day in office of a reformist president. So this president has tried, it seems that the mandate and what we've also seen as far as past reformists, is trying to prioritize diplomacy or at least push more for it. So if we look at them as sort of the moderates in the Iranian political structure, he has the same negotiating team back who negotiated the nuclear deal, the JCPOA, with the Americans. Javad Zarif, the former foreign minister, his deputy, who's now the foreign minister, everyone kind of moved up. So there's the president, foreign minister is now vice president, his deputy is now foreign minister, and almost the entire negotiating team with the US, who had delivered something successful as far as diplomacy with the United States in the past. And now that's a signal, I think, from the entirety of the state, not just the reformists and not just the administration, but also from the top, the supreme leader, all the way, that they've sort of handed back the foreign policy file to the moderates, being like, you go fix it. Because however that hardline conservative president was doing things in the past 3 or so years, because he died before his 4-year term, that wasn't working for the country. So adversity with the animosity with the US brings a lot of economic sanctions. The Trump administration pulling out of the JCPOA, reimposing economic sanctions on the country. And it's just something that has put a lot of pressure on everyday Iranians. So the moderates are at least in charge of, the official foreign ministry, not the entirety of the political structure. The president is not the number one person in power in Iran. There's the supreme leader and the president, and the others are sort of in tier 2. But he is a very important person. And he was in New York at the UN trying to bring that message of diplomacy. He even called himself, an envoy for peace, and saying we don't want the war. But nevertheless, they are engaged in this war. There are hardline forces, there are militant forces within the Iranian political structure who, they're part of the allies or sort of at top of this axis of resistance. And so they're engaged in the war. And so there's this push and pull, I would say, between the moderates and the forces who are trying to prioritize and push for more diplomacy, and also the ones who want more, engagement on the battlefield as far as hard power versus soft power. So we've seen a combination of that. So, for example, after the Hani assassination in Tehran, the Iranians didn't retaliate immediately. They were waiting. Right. So I would say the moderates had the upper hand for a while, but then came the assassination of the Hezbollah leader together with an Iranian commander. And so for both of those, the Iranians retaliated with this missile barrage on Israel last week. And now we're waiting for retaliation from Israel back to Iran. And, these are all mini escalations that each side is trying to frame as establishing deterrence. But when you're establishing deterrence, it's not guaranteed
everyone's claiming that.
Right, that the other side doesn't come to you with their own deterrence. So that's why I would say this war has only been expanded in the past year in all of these multiple fronts, and the fire is just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the assassination attempts or plots, not attempts, but alleged plots on Donald Trump's life that apparently Iran is also doing. I mean, they're working on a lot of fronts.
They are. So let me just clarify the 2 assassination attempts, as far as I followed, were not linked, but Iran has sort of its own list, which also again is retaliation for when Donald Trump assassinated the top Iranian general, and then Iranians put out this list of the top people who were responsible for that assassination, and now the US has to protect their lives with very expensive security for the rest of, for their entirety. And so all of these things, accumulate. You make these decisions, these security or foreign policy decisions in the region, and they have long-term ramifications. And, it's a tactic, which battle you win, but also a long-term war or a sort of a long-term strategy.
I have a question just regarding the players here when it comes to both Iran and Israel. It is hard for me as, a Western outside observer to not look at the actions, the trading of fire between these two countries, and not look at the Iranians as actually acting as the adults on the world stage, which is not something that obviously you would hear in media, but you see the way in which that barrage of missile attacks that happened recently, the way in which the casualty figures was very low. I think one is all I heard was reported. I'm sure
A lot of them were shot down, but yes, I mean,
right. But a lot of them also landed. But where they landed in terms of like the targets that were chosen were very clearly military targets. And then you juxtapose that with the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, and then and then Nasrallah and the Iranian commander,
leveling an entire neighborhood,
leveling entire neighborhoods. And so it's hard for me as someone who was raised in America with the idea, especially as someone was raised with Zionism and a little bit of neoconism in the home. It's hard for me to not just look at this as just a complete inversion of what the narrative is. And you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but it does seem like Iran is a responsible actor on the world stage here. Am I missing something?
Well, I don't know about adults in the room, because the adults also come with power, and I would like to think that that's still the United States. I actually tweeted something along these lines saying, the U.S. can be, if they want to, the adult in the room who can break up the fight. They actually have the power and the leverage, both in hard power and in a form of soft power, which so far hasn't been used, the second one, to break up the fight. And they just aren't doing it. They just have their thumb on the scale on one side and pretending like they don't have the leverage to stop the fight. I would say, though, if we talk in foreign policy terms, Iran has showed a lot of restraint.
Yes.
In the past year. So as you were saying, the 2 attacks on Israel that came from Iran were both retaliations, although that's not how we see it framed in the media, which I think is a disservice also to the American public. If you, with every conflict or every moment of the conflict, you don't bring the context or the 2 or 3 or 4 weeks that led to what you're seeing. And have your audience only hear one part of the story or 50% of the situation, I think it's a disservice, because America is also very much involved in this war, at least financially, but also as far as arms supplies, diplomatically providing the coverage, and then potentially, U.S. forces may be pulled in if this turns into the next big Middle East war with Iran. But anyways, to your point, Iran has showed a lot of restraint. Both of these attacks on Israel, the way they framed it, were retaliation. One was for the attack on Iranian consulate in Syria, which they saw on the Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria, which they saw as crossing a major red line. And then also the assassination of Haniyeh and the head of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, together with an Iranian commander. But they were both designed as warning shots. A warning shot is not supposed to have mass casualties, but it's supposed to serve as a warning. And what are the warnings? There are 2 points to these warnings from Iran, because obviously Iran is the underdog. Iran can't match the military might of Israel, a nuclear state with about, I don't know, whatever the number is of warheads, which Iran doesn't have any. And then also with the support of the world superpower, which is the United States. But so
Iran is 1 week away from having a nuke. I don't know if you know that.
Iran has been a nuclear state, if you sort of read the confused reporting.
I've read this every week for the last 20 years. They've been 1 week away from a nuke.
For quite a while, yes. But they've been the underdog. But I think what they showed is that, one, they have the capacity to do an attack, and that's sort of a warning, and cause, if they meant it to not be a warning shot, but an actual attack, that they can cause a lot of damage. And 2, I would say the willingness, because before that, the understanding was that they're bluffing, they would never do it, they're not willing to. And so I think that's on both of these warning shots. I would say the sort of the battlefield, or the commanders, or these hardline forces in the country basically won the argument that we need to show how crazy we can be if push comes to shove, and if this war starts, and that's basically the design of the warning shot. So showing the capacity of whatever they have, this arsenal of missiles and whatnot. And also the willingness to do if this becomes. And I think, and I would just add that the U.S., so the administration does take that seriously. I think in rhetoric and somewhat in policy, they're not interested in starting or being pulled into a war with Iran. But at the same time, they're sort of paving the way for it, or allowing their ally to pave the way for it and bring them to a point of no return.
Well, and especially when, the United States currently has troops in Iraq, and Iraqi groups have said, we will be, if this continues, we're going to start attacking Americans. And they've already been attacked, but so far there haven't been casualties. But it's like, what if they escalated? And that's something that, Trita Parsi's talked about on the show multiple times. But I want to talk, because here's my thing with Iran. From the first week of this genocide, because let's go back to Gaza. From the very first weeks, a perfect foil for a lot of my liberal Zionist friends was being able to sort of rise above talking about, 40,000 dead Palestinians, and talk about, but Iran, that in some ways the greater threat justifies the current genocide. And I obviously that's morally wrong, but also maybe factually wrong. Right. But I did want to talk about what we're being told now is the axis of resistance, right? It's Iran and their proxies, or if the groups that they help to fund, including Hamas, including Hezbollah, and the Houthis, the Triple H, right, that have been attacking trade routes. Now, what's really interesting about all these groups is that they have said, Hezbollah just reaffirmed, the Houthis have said this, that they will stop when there is a ceasefire, when Israel has agreed to a ceasefire. And yet we are being told that kind of these are intractable, psychotic, almost ISIS-like, irrational groups that will stop at nothing to shed blood, when they've been very, very clear what their, lines are for ending any kind of violence, for stopping, missiles and whatnot. So I guess I just want to ask you about, if the occupation ends, let's imagine, isn't that a lot of the root of some of these so-called proxies and these organizations? We know Hezbollah was created thanks to the Israeli invasion in 1982 of Lebanon. Can you just explain sort of how this big knot gets loosened greatly when there is a change in policy, and when there's a change in the Israeli occupation and those forces?
Sure. So you're absolutely right, Francesca. These groups are resistance to something. Resistance to what? Resistance to, as you say, depending on each of their locations, to occupation, to what they see as foreign intervention. In the case of the Houthis, to what they see as tyranny, or domestic regimes that are being supported or propped up by foreign forces, be it the United States or other Middle East powers. So each of them have their own, and that's why I actually don't like calling them proxies. I don't think that's a very accurate term, although that's what's become mainstream here in the media, because that gives you the sense that there are buttons in Tehran that they can push on and off and turn them on and off, and in fact actually created them. These groups have each had their own local organic grounding, like you said, Hezbollah, invasion of Lebanon by Israel, and the same goes with Hamas, the Houthis, also the Shia militias in Iraq that are supported by Iran. So they're all allies. It's a network of allies. And by the way, the axis of resistance name came after George Bush called Iran, Syria, and others the axis of evil.
Yes.
And they went around saying, we're actually not evil. You are the evil, and we're an axis of resistance, resisting your evil. So that's where the term comes from. But nevertheless, resistance, muqawamat is what they call themselves. Muqawamat to something, resistance to something. And so, and each of them, by the way, have different, relationships, different distance, different format as far as being allies of Tehran. But it's a group of loose network of state and non-state actors that are basically, in their view, resisting this hegemony, U.S. hegemony, intervention, presence of U.S. forces, the wars that U.S. has waged in the region, and also U.S.'s closest allies, Israel, and also by extension Saudi Arabia, which is the main issue in the fight in Yemen. So, and to your question, yes, all of them basically came in their framing to the defense of the Palestinians when the attack started in Gaza, and all of them sort of tied their attacks or their escalations to that war and bombing in Gaza. And all of them have been saying all along that they are willing to de-escalate or basically be part of the ceasefire if that ceasefire happens in Gaza. And interestingly, also, the US has been pushing sort of this diplomacy, trying to decouple it or detach it from the situation in Gaza. They've tried that in Lebanon all along, to sort of come to a terms or to an agreement with Hezbollah, with the Lebanese, without sort of this looking at the situation in Gaza. And also the same goes with the Houthis. It hasn't worked. Like I said, the war has only expanded. If Iraq and Afghanistan, I think, taught us anything, is that hard power alone doesn't work. You go after what you think is a big monster. And as my colleague Matt Duss put it one time, you end up midwifing little monsters along the way, and you can't fight every single one of them. And then you have to essentially pull out in a kind of mess that we saw in Afghanistan. So there's no good that can come out of this sort of seeing everything as a nail and using your one hammer to try to hammer every single nail. It just it hasn't worked in that region for decades, and I don't think it's going to work this time. But I just want to reiterate, every time someone's trying to go at the problem with a hammer, they promise everyone that this is just the one last nail that I'm going to take care of with the hammer. And don't worry, this is not going to be an endless war. This is not going to burn down the entire region. And this is going to be successful. Remember, George Bush and all, they promised they'll get it out of Iraq, very soon. I don't remember what the promise, but it wasn't 20 years. Afghanistan, the same thing. No one said we're going to go into these countries for the next 20 years, create a mess, and then leave it worse than it was 20 years later and come out. But that's how it starts. And then you.
I mean, and you see the same thing, like the trying to erase the Palestinians from the equation of diplomacy or bilateral relationships or whatever it is. They do it with the Abraham Accords. And now they're doing it over issues that clearly stem from Israel's actions. And it's like, anything, we will tie ourselves into knots. We will do anything possible to not go at this issue head on, to not look at the bright light that is clearly shining in our faces. And it's so obvious that this is what needs to happen. I mean, and that is why the Iran deal, which you mentioned, which it's very heartening to hear that some of the same people are in the administration now in Iran. So look, some of the same neocons that advise Bush are in Biden's administration, but also some Obama people are in Biden's administration. You've got a mix here. And it's wild to me that, Biden, we talked about this for years before October 7th. Why isn't Biden getting back into the Iran deal? This would be so beneficial and important. And I don't know.
He promised that he would. Candidate Biden, we actually had a piece on foreign policy a couple of years ago. We basically said President Biden should listen to candidate Biden when it comes to Iran. He published a piece in CNN. He was going around criticizing Donald Trump. Most Democrats were for pulling out of the nuclear deal, not replacing it with anything better. And they just, when they came to the White House, they didn't do that. They haven't done it yet. And, it's just spiraled into something bigger and more problematic since then.
Negar, we have to leave it there. But Negar Mortazavi, host of the Iran podcast. Everybody go check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations on Iranian politics, society, and culture. Also, please follow Negar on Twitter. Since you referenced your Twitter, I'm like, good for you, girl, still tweeting. I am so bad at that. But Negar Mortazavi, Mortazavi on Twitter or X, which we're about to get in. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry to cut you off. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. We got one more segment for y'all. Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's been, speaking of X, which I've started typing in x.com, which is so sad.
That is really sad. Stop doing that. Because you can still type in twitter.com. I just want to say that was a great interview.
Yeah, isn't she great?
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I feel like we could have gone on for 2 hours. I know so many questions.
I know. Well, you got to have her on about Hezbollah.
I know.
Okay. Well, that's a deal. But in the meantime, I'm like, ooh, new episode of the Iran podcast.
Oh yeah.
Got to listen to that. Everybody check it out. And with that, guys, why don't we move into our final segment? It's been quite a week for Mr. Musk.
Mr. Musk.
The just, I don't know what we want to call him.
He's
How do we describe him? The richest, most fragile,
the most try-hardy guy I've ever seen in my life.
Try-hard man. He
never seen a man try so hard. And you know what? You don't need to. You're already a billionaire.
I described him as having mass shooter energy the other day,
100%.
and he really does.
He really does.
Just angry, but also entitled. Just very privileged, angry kid who is now fully stumping for Donald Trump.
Right, like literally. Before it was just like culture war stumping for him. And it was very funny because he used to, like Donald Trump would dunk on him regularly online, basically just call him a bitch to his face. And the thing about Donald Trump is that for some reason, for a certain type of person, that only inspires like more loyalty. And so,
right.
But Elon, you can see he's a piss pig just looking at him.
He really is. And that's crazy as someone who, so that's the other thing is for me, Elon Musk finally sort of giving his life to Donald Trump as his Lord and Savior is a little bit of this like, oh man, you command a bunch of piss pigs.
Yeah, right.
Like you could be piss king.
Yeah.
For all the piss piggies.
It's interesting. He doesn't
feeding at the piss trough.
Yeah.
But you are still beholden.
You've
still been seduced by the same BS, MAGA, fake Western civilization, chauvinistic, misogynist. Like, they do big strong man. Like you're still.
It's weird.
You're just a MAGA little cretin.
It's crazy.
Like everybody else.
It's crazy to have so much, like to be so thin-skinned and prideful that you literally just decide to do a Nazi pivot.
But
and
it's also bad branding. You're like you could command your own shit. Like protect the Elon. Part of the Elon brand was the allure and the lie that he was sort of a non-partisan but libertarian, smart guy, smart, cool guy.
Right.
And now it's just like
he was an inventor. He was supposed to be Thomas Edison.
Right.
People were like, he went and he invented Tesla, which he didn't. Or PayPal, which he didn't.
The rockets.
Yeah, SpaceX, which he does not do anything. He doesn't do anything. It's weird that he has so much pride and such thin skin that he does a Nazi heel turn. But it's even weirder that he doesn't have so much pride that he won't bow down before the Church of Trump. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's weird. Like it just seems like it doesn't make sense to me.
So he was campaigning with him back in Butler, Pennsylvania, which I believe is where Donald Trump was shot at.
Oh, are they back?
We're going back to just.
Oh man.
Oh, this is just extra craven. Like you think like aggressing on a security guard in the Arlington Cemetery is bad. Like going back to the site where you were almost killed is just wild to me.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to go back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah. He's like, does anyone want to do it again?
Yeah.
I'm
right sorry.
Here.
I'm down in the polls.
Take me.
Shoot at me.
Shoot me.
If you miss me, you can get him.
So this is Elon Musk being introduced by Donald Trump, and here's what Elon decided to do.
Oh God.
Yumpy.
His rocket company is the only reason we can now send America astronauts into space. Take over, Elijah.
Yes, he went on to say he's wearing his dark shirt. And he then said,
so I'm dark. Clearly, I'm dark MAGA.
I'm clearly dark MAGA.
I've never seen a Rizless person before. Like there was, I've known people who were just not very, like good at speaking. But this guy has got negative Riz.
Yeah.
When he speaks, my pussy dries up. Like it is just one of those.
Can you believe someone like this? I mean, this is how you know, like, money will get you laid. Like this dude has however many kids and has.
Well, anyone can have lots of kids.
But like that. I'm assuming it was consensual.
You're thinking about Grimes being particularly attractive. I mean, I'm sure the other wives.
He's had other. I've seen his other wives are attractive.
Yeah, money will get you. Far. But it is crazy to me that he has so many kids and so few missed phone calls from his kids. Like no one wants to talk to him.
Nobody wants to talk to him. So there he is, just jumping in Like
that's his new meme thing where he's just like, I'm gonna do a little yumpy, and it's like
he's never jumped before,
well, I
which
think
we know something about because our daughter is learning how to jump.
that's true.
It's
She does
very
jump
cute.
like
She really like goes like ooh bacha and like and like one foot is a little bit lower. She can't do it together. Doesn't get the knee bent.
But
and
really gets the arms
like he
up,
doesn't. He didn't even bend his knees. He was just like more air. Like
what is
very.
It's a meme. It's like this,
white man can't jump. What do you mean?
No. I mean like the Elon jump is a new thing. He's trying out a new catchphrase type thing. It's where he jumps. Like this is something now his hogs will ask for. They're like, Elon jump, and then he'll do that weird little jump, which is like, again.
Oh, they love it. They love that jump. So negative, really?
Yes, it's a thing.
Negative Riz is something people are enjoying right now.
Well, when you, like you said, when you have a lot of money, people will like you.
Here's the problem with this jump. In addition, can we understand he's wearing a shirt that is too small for him?
Yeah, and you can see sort of the I don't know, the Ozempic chunk. It's just like he's not
in
fully,
his skinny jeans.
Yeah, he's wearing the skinny jeans. He's doing the Conan circa 2007 thing. Like he's just a Rizless man.
He really is. He really just walk,
and he ruined Twitter. He ruined it.
He absolutely ruined it. And he's done it even more. So let's there's a few. So we're gonna go through a roundup of some of these moments.
Oh yeah.
But we know that he's donated, I believe, $50 million to
Donald Trump.
Well, yes, one of the PACs that supports Stephen Miller's like anti-ACLU group, like America First Legal or some shit like this. Mm-hmm. He's been donating behind the scenes millions and millions and millions of dollars to effectively the Trump team and the Trump campaign. But this week he did something interesting. He took over the handle at America.
Oh, okay.
To support his super PAC, America PAC. And then offered a really interesting little offer, I guess.
Okay.
A little money.
Oh, he's trying to pay people to sign a petition?
Yes. Sign our petition in defense of your constitutional rights to free speech and bear arms. Goal is to get 1 million voters in swing states to sign the petition. For each registered swing state voter you refer that signs the petition, you get $47.
Oh, okay. Is that
Nazi coded?
Well, I don't know.
$47? Is that legal? No.
It's very much legal.
Not legal. And so now he is continuing. So it's a petition in favor of free speech and the right to bear arms, which is like, that's cool. But a lot of people are seeing it's just a way to collect people's names and email addresses. Email addresses. And he's doubling down on it. Like Elon Musk PAC, America's PAC, is offering $47 for each registered voter you refer in a swing state that signs this petition.
Okay. It's interesting though, because it's like he's offering to pay his own money to have people sign a petition. What is? I'm not entirely sure what it does. How does it help? Is it just that he wants to get people excited about the idea of participating, or is he just because here I'm super happy for him to waste his money?
It's basically about like collecting their info.
Right. Yeah. Which seems like something they wouldn't.
They're not technically paying vote because you're not supposed. It's a crime to pay voters to pay someone to vote or to register to vote. But it's not illegal to pay voters to sign the petition or get other people to sign the petition.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because he's the problem with Elon Musk is that he has no like business sense. Like he thinks he has business sense because he is a billionaire, because he lucked out with PayPal and then was able to roll that into Tesla and then SpaceX. But like if there's anything the last few years of Elon has proven, it's that you just are like, I don't think this guy knows anything.
Yeah, I mean this is
like
still
him
legal.
buying Twitter for $47 billion. Twitter.
Wasn't it? Was it? I don't know where the 47 comes from. I thought that's how much a blue check costs every single month or some bullshit
No,
like that.
I just made up. It was some.
It was way more than
way
that.
overvalued.
It was way overvalued. But the other thing is, if you're talking about his business sense, if 1 million people are referred,
right,
he could pay up to $47 million to Trump supporters.
Right. But
it's another way of like, it's not illegal, but it is another way. It's like quasi legal, right?
I mean,
he's another way of getting people. Let's just put it this way. If a fucking Democrat were doing this, Republicans would lose their mind.
Right. He is actually doing real life what they think George Soros does. It's like, and I think that is what this is this is him being like, why don't we have any George Soroses on the right? Which is a question that I heard, like, what's his name? Joe Rogan ask. And I just was like, are you guys really this stupid? You think there's no right-wing George Soros?
Jesus Christ. That's the whole reason you know George Soros is because he's the only not
he's
right-wing
the only one
billionaire.
who's not like a fucking far right-wing fascist.
Yeah,
you know?
47, obviously, it's because it's going to be the 47th president. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's something he did. That was fun. But then his mom just sort of, I guess, really trying to test how much we can see her own tweets.
Oh,
and
interesting.
are willing to, like, this is still up on Twitter.
Oh, she didn't post feet.
Jesus Christ. May Musk tweeted, the Democrats have given us another option. Have given us another option. You don't have to register to vote. On election day, have 10 fake names, go to 10 polling booths and vote 10 times. That's 100 votes and it's not illegal. Maybe we should work the system too.
Yeah, so that's actual voter fraud.
Readers added context. This is in fact illegal.
Yeah, that's very illegal. That's literally just voter fraud.
I think she meant the Democrats haven't given us another option. In other words, we have to do this. Don't register. Just try to vote as many times. Now,
no. She's implying that Democrats do that.
Yeah, well,
that you've given us another option. How about we just do what you do?
Right,
and
right,
it's
right.
Like what? We don't
do that. But
who does that?
Here's my thing. I would like to see someone try to vote 10 times in a day.
Yeah.
Especially in a state that matters.
Yeah.
You can't even vote one time in a county or a state that matters in a single day.
Right.
That shit takes you hours.
Yeah.
Because of the lines, because of the voter suppression. Like, try to vote a time.
The funny thing about conservatives is they vastly overestimate how much value people put in voting. Like, this idea that we love voting so much that we would do it 10 times over is so funny to me, where they're just like, these goddamn, they're getting people to sign 10 voter registration cards. And it's like, do you think Americans, just people like paperwork? What are you talking about?
No, but yeah, I mean, they're basically like, well,
if you can get anyone to vote, it's a miracle.
This is the whole thing, though. It's we had to cheat because you were already cheating.
Right. That's the entire game. That's the 101 fascism.
Because you register a bunch of undocumented immigrants that you put up in an embassy suites.
Right.
And then finally, for our little dork MAGA, which is I'm calling this segment.
Hell yeah.
Not dark MAGA, but dork MAGA. Here is Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson casually talking about how no one wants to kill Kamala Harris or Joe Biden.
Jeez.
Oh, lol. How come no one's trying to do that?
Which is like nobody's even bothering to try to kill Kamala because it's pointless. What do you achieve? Nothing.
No, it's totally
just find
right.
another puppet.
Exactly.
It's no point in killing.
It's deep and true, though.
Nobody's trying to kill Joe Biden. It would be pointless.
Totally.
Okay, this is a small aside, but why are they rolling while like the blonde woman is serving them water and coffee and like coming in and out of frame?
This
like,
is the entertainment industry.
Like,
yeah, no, it is.
That's so
weird. That is like clearly meant to be like candid moment between two neo-fascists in which they're going like, someone should kill Kamala, but no one even cares enough to do it.
She's not cool enough
as opposed
to be shot at.
As to my guy who's constantly almost getting killed.
But this is so wild to me. Like, we are being told that our rhetoric is putting Donald Trump in danger, and there's Elon and Tucker, forget what it implies for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, but effectively implying that our guy got shot out because he's like hella cool
he's
or whatever.
cool, yeah.
He goes hard.
Well,
You know, he
that's-
says real shit. And you're like, I'm pretty sure you're doing the inciting of violence right there by like using it as like an accolade and like.
Yeah, that's why every single Trump would-be assassin was a Trump supporter.
Yes.
They're all just the guy who killed Lenin. You know, they're all like Mark David Chapman going, "I love you." Let's be real. Like, you only get killed by your super fans, not your super haters. Think of the history of like those.
Yeah, your super haters don't want to make you a martyr.
How did Selena die? Super fan.
Yep.
You know, how did fucking Reagan get shot? A super fan of Jodie Foster's. So same thing. I'm just saying, you know, like super fans, you gotta watch out for fandom. It's so stupid.
That's why, you know, no one should become a patron. Patreon.com/patreon.
Yeah.
That's why I deliberately keep this podcast small.
Yeah. The
Like, I don't want
$200
you to
tier,
listen.
you can take one shot from 400 yards away with a scoped out M16.
That, first of all, that will be a tier on the Trump. Like, okay, all right, for $1 million,
Yeah. A month
you can hunt me
for sport.
for sport. Safari International will facilitate this.
That's right. Our sponsor, Safari International, human hunting. But yeah, it is like, it's just I hate, this is like the classic like dumb guy conservative mindset of just like, oh, you're mad at me, I must be getting close to the truth. And it's just like, yeah, that's it. You're too close to the truth about weather machines, you fucking moron. Maybe it's because you just cull psychos. Maybe if your whole thing is culling psychos, one of them is gonna turn on you. Oh man.
That does it for the Bitchuation Room today. Thank you so much, Matt. You're wonderful. Where can people find you, listen to you, follow your work?
You can find me on the internet. I am on Twitter at Matt Lieb, Instagram at Matt Lieb Jokes, and listen to Bad Hasbara. And then also very soon, the new Pod Yourself season, in which we're going to be covering all of Mad Men, the AMC show with Don Draper and the advertising.
I will have to watch it now.
I've
never seen
show.
it, and now I have to watch it.
You have to watch it. It's
I
a
just
great
feel like
show.
it doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
It definitely doesn't. But that's a good thing. It's
Yeah.
1960. No one passed the Bechdel test back then. It's the context. No, but it's a great show, and we're going to be talking about that. New episodes of that will be coming in the next 2 weeks.
Ooh,
and this
very exciting.
time, I mean it.
Did you lie about it before?
Well, I've been like, I don't know, a month away, guys, for like 2-3 months now. But now I mean it. We've already recorded a few.
Thanks to all of our new patrons. $10 or more gets you a shout out during this fart song. However, we don't have any this week. Very upsetting, but that's okay. We can still
Listen to the fart song.
Listen to the fart song. And thank Friar Adam over on Twitch for giving out 5 community subs. Thank you so much, Friar. That's so generous of you. Onyx Squared for resubscribing with Prime. 4 months strong. Texas Dragon fan for resubscribing. 2 months. Welcome. Sort of new here. What?
Just the fart song is so great.
Rose Alba 14, thank you for subscribing. 20 months, 1 month strong. Rose Alba, yes, long time listener. CC 1827 also resubscribed. 8 months strong. Frank Morningtree resubscribed at tier 2. Thank you, Frank. 34 months. And Gigantify, thank you for your bits. Thank you for your love. Undead Pixels also resubscribe. I forgot to read comments, so let me take 1 second to read some comments.
But keep the fart going.
No. No one can hear the comments when the fart's going.
Oh, is that right?
Jeff Curry says, this is the first time I've ever heard of a dangerous Milton. Speaking of the hurricane, it's true. Like, you just listen to that name, you're like DeSantis, like, oh, that's a cuck name. You know,
there's one dangerous Milton, and he worked at the office from Office Space, and he set the building on fire.
That's right.
Yes.
I forgot about Milton.
Yeah, Milton Wadhams. Yeah.
This is the Milton.
I'm gonna set the building on fire. I'm gonna put strychnine in the guacamole.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We do, of course we love that movie.
That's
Paige is like, we love that
straw.
movie. Of course we love it.
Yeah, of course. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorites.
It's one of the best. Rachel Atwood just placed her order for the very first Sunset Lake CBD
Hell yeah.
order. Thank you so much. It's a good time. October 24. Get that 35% off. I am Suck on Twitch as a reporter told Matt Miller people are sick of the bullshit today.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I couldn't find this clip, but you know, this idea of like, hey, you're commemorating October 27th. Maybe mention the Palestinians.
Oh, October 7th.
October 7th. Maybe mention the Palestinians once. And they were like, no.
That's why we said Hamas.
We reject that framing of Palestinians existing. It's so pathetic. And I know I said I do hold out hope, but I do. I do hold out hope. And that hope will very quickly die when Kamala Harris disappoints me, as she has done for many, many months now. But again, you guys know where I'm at on that. Anyway, thank you to Paige Omek, to Maximilian Inhofe, to Andy Vasoyan. We're streaming Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Please support the show. You can tip TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App. You can super chat. You can thank us after the fact. A lot of these videos get demonetized, so send in some of that love. And until next time, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it.
Patreon.com/thebituation room.
Bituation room. Bye.
Bituation room. Join it.